Yo,
Yeah,
my bad, man.
no, it's all good.
Some family stuff, and then I had to relay everything to my wife. So
Okay. Well, that was the fastest I ever got a recording up, and it's a good size recording. It's like 25 minutes.
I was gonna say it. I felt like we went about 25 minutes, which is a nice sample size.
It's perfect, and it's all one subject too.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't hear it played back. So
Right. I called it Star Wars: A New Dope.
what brand is it under?
Uh, on that ish.
Okay. Okay.
Or
So what's up?
oh, chilling, chilling. Let's see what else happened this week. So there was talk about the Amy woman being charged,
Yep.
and you had come out and said that you didn't feel like it was necessary for her to be charged. And then
Yeah.
I posted, an abolitionist who was like, look, if we're going to be about, getting rid of the carceral system and finding other ways for justice, then that definitely includes this. And we definitely feel like she has felt the consequences already. So putting her through the carceral
Oh yeah,
system.
that's right. Right. I didn't watch the video. I read the. I actually read the tweet. I didn't know she was an abolitionist.
I mean, I'm maybe throwing that in there just based on what she said. It's very much mimics the language. I mean, she basically was
When
making
we
the
say
argument.
abolitionist in the 21st century, are we meaning like abolish the police type abolitionist?
Um, I may be throwing more into it. This may be particularly maybe like abolish the prison system, which often gets thrown in with abolishing the police, but isn't necessarily always the same thing.
Hmm.
But yeah,
I don't know how I feel about. We've had this conversation, but to be more specific, abolishing the prison system, I certainly think there needs to be prison reform. Our prison system, as it stands, can't stand. It just can't
right,
continue to exist that way. You know what I mean? I
right,
certainly think there should be serious reform, starting with what the purpose of. Maybe we could have a dual prison system, but that might even be, digging the rabbit hole even deeper. But what I mean is, you know, the argument inherently is prison meant for punishment or reform, right? But the root of that comes from, we all know that prison is like a capitalist tool, right? To kind of generate cheap labor or taking advantage of
well,
cheap labor.
it is and it isn't. See, when you get into the abolitionist movement, you realize a lot of that stuff is assumptions that aren't really true. There's
Well,
only a
we know
certain
we do know
percentage.
that. Go on.
There's only a certain percentage of the prison system that gets cheap labor out of.
Yeah, but there is a percentage.
Yeah, but it's not large though. It's not large. It's
I
not a
mean,
large percentage.
okay. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of beside the point anyway. My point ultimately is what's the ultimate purpose of our prison system outside
Right.
of it just being a means to funnel in apparently large percentages of minorities?
Hmm.
I don't necessarily think that prison altogether just needs to be eradicated, but then I don't know how abolish applies. We had a conversation and it was explained to me that abolish the police meant something different than,
Hmm.
say, the dictionary term of abolish. So I definitely don't know how it applies to the prison system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it applies to some of the things I'm speaking about, addressing whether we're looking at reform or punishment, or maybe there's, two systems where one is specifically for punishment, and one is for reform. I imagine someone who's going to get, charged with a couple life sentences for, murders that we have all the evidence for, what have you. Like, why would we put you in a reformatory institution if you're getting concurrent life sentences, right?
I highly doubt that abolitionists are seeking
But
punishment.
I don't know either way. You doubt they're seeking punishment?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that we have to stay open to being our better selves and thinking about what kind of society we want to have. This punitive carceral society that we have has not brought us, has not brought us, I think, what we want. So, yeah, my idea is that it's an ideal and it's an idealistic way of looking at things, and that you're always pushing for perfection, or you're always pushing to uh, to be better and to get better, and that a lot of the questions that they ask are, what are the situations that bring us here in the first place? How can we address those? How can we be more preventative instead of punitive? Um, and then, just addressing issues of poverty and, racism and
I
mental
think those things are
illness and those
certainly
kind of
questions
things.
that need to be asked and or explored in regards to minority prison population, but I don't think that they account for all of the population.
Well, I mean, these numbers are
Take
out
someone.
there.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so what if you're talking, some white woman who's affluent and just decides, she just no longer wants to deal with her kids and drives them to the woods, cuts them up and buries them.
Well, I mean, you'd have to look at. I mean, are we talking about an anomaly, or are we talking about something that rarely happens? Are we going to build a whole system based on anomalies? Are we talking about someone who's dealing with severe uh, mental disorders? I mean, we have to actually look at what we're discussing and what we're talking about.
Yeah, but that's when you say anomaly, I mean, then we need numbers, right? Because there are a lot of non-minority people in prison for committing real murder.
Well, I'm talking about the particular situation that you brought up.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
I'm
because
talking about that.
but I mean, that's just an example of murder.
Well, I mean, it's a quite specific one, right?
Each one is going to be specific, right? Each one is going to be unique to the person who committed it.
My point is, yes, I agree with you. We have to look at the situation, see what we're dealing with, and see what's the best way to proceed to improve the situation. And I think the one size fits all, throw them away and throw the key away hasn't necessarily worked, especially
And
when
what
you
and what
add
well, how has it
violence.
failed?
How has it failed?
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking about a generic person and not minorities.
it's failed because, well, I mean, first of all, when you look at the U.S. prison system compared to the rest of the world's, um, our we seem to have very high recidivism rates. We don't seem to be focused on rehabilitation. Punishment seems to be the rule, and then there's just out of pocket stuff like abuse and stuff that's just that's not supposed to be there. But I don't. I guess what I'm
Okay,
saying
so
is that it hasn't made the
I hear your points. I'm still searching within your points to understand how it's failed.
because it
I'm not
hasn't
saying
made
it
because it
hasn't.
hasn't made the country safer. because people go to prison and learn all types of like foul shit, and rather than like getting better, they like go through like
So
traumatic
what
situations.
is
And
your
wait, let me
what
finish.
is your
Let me
what is
finish.
your
Let me finish my thought and sentence. Um, so they learn, a bunch of foul shit. Uh, don't rehabilitate or get better, and sometimes get thrown back into society to like repeat the whole thing again, or they're thrown outside with like no way of like getting employment or sometimes housing or that kind of thing, and it just doesn't make life safer for folks in general.
so what is how do you define safer as it applies to life in America?
I don't know, like people who are well adjusted and able to navigate through society without um, reverting back to like violence
So
and
do you
putting
mean
other people in
crime
danger.
free?
What's that?
You mean crime free?
No, I mean just what I said.
Yeah, I'm asking though. I
No, I don't.
understand.
I don't mean. I don't mean crime free. I mean less. Prone to running into violent reoffenders, and less prone to being in like situations that people don't know like how to handle without resorting to like violence or like frustration or um, what's the word I'm looking for? Let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? When you just like totally run out of options and you're just like totally exasperated, you don't know what to do.
Okay. I guess. I don't know. I wonder what what these abolitionist people's responses to my questions would be. It would have to be something more substantial, I imagine, on paper than that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna run down like I haven't. I mean, I've studied the stuff, but I'm not in a mental state to try to like to put their arguments, you know, to the test or what have you. I mean,
Hmm.
I can tell you who to look up. I can tell you who are the people who make up like the people at the forefront of this movement. Their words are like explain their position very well, and you can look it up and see what you think about it.
Hmm.
But I mean, a lot of it is just questioning the way that we do things. Like state-sanctioned violence is our answer to like violent offenders, and it doesn't actually make sense. It doesn't actually
How
like
define that state sanctioned violence in their
well, whether it's whether it's like the death penalty or like whether it's like putting people in these like dangerous putting people in cages, um, putting people in the hole, um, putting people in situations where they're around like a lot of folks who are not like controlling their anger and are just like let loose to do like really foul shit to other human beings, like that kind of thing. State sanctioned violence is like kind of what our prison system often is.
okay. I'm gonna have to look into it, research it, and see what they have to say. Because as it stands at face value, I mean, and I don't know without hearing a viable alternative. I certainly think we should look at the point of prison, whether it's just to punish or if it's to reform, for sure. But I mean, that's been an argument for as long as I can remember.
Well, yeah,
You
and
know,
again, I mean, we don't have to invent the wheel. Like, not all systems look like ours. Our system is more punitive than others, and it doesn't focus on rehabilitation, and you know, it sucks compared to other systems. You know, I mean, frankly, there are people in our system that get off on like putting prisoners through like cruel situations
hmm
because they think they deserve it. And it's like a really sick system where the people who are like the perpetrators of this cruelty are like really victims themselves because they're losing their humanity as well. But yeah, a lot of it is just like you know, we have to look at this whole system and like why this like cycle is happening in the first place and why, you know, why people are like going in like they are in the first place. And then yeah, there's like alternatives. There's something called restorative justice, where it's like a whole system where families can decide other ways that you know, perpetrators can like can go through justice other than like being in a cage or other than being in jail. And it's like it's up to them to decide. Now, what that means, I don't know. Well, if that means that this person is going to, you know, take care of an older person for a long time or take care of someone that they put in a wheelchair through violence for a long time, whatever the family wants. But restorative justice is one of the alternatives that's actually in place in some places, and certainly being
such as like where?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where, but you could look that up as well.
Man, I gotta do a lot of work for this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, do the work. It's worth it. I mean, I'm not here pretending to be an expert. And honestly, like, you know, if I was more awake, maybe I could, you know, kind of like be some kind of ambassador and try to like, you know, fight for this position. But I don't. That's not like where I'm coming from right now. It's an alternative. Look into it. It's worth it. Um, I liked what I saw. You may or may not like what you see, but it's totally worth the research. I can give you a name or two of you know, one of the black women leading um, this revolution that you can look into and
Yeah, for the
see.
sake of the video, certainly drop the name.
Yeah, so one of the woman's names is, let's see, Ruth. But not just for the sake of the video. I mean, you should check it
No,
out.
I'm going to, but certainly for the sake of the video, though, I'm going to. But drop the name. Like I could get the name from you offline. I could have you text it to me, but I want you to specifically put it in the video. That's why I said for the sake of the video, because people are going to watch, and definitely I want people to be able to 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 you know, take that name, do some research, and get some information and come to a conclusion one way or another, or at least, you know, add it to, you know, whatever it is that they think about.
Ruth Wilson Gilmore. She is at the head of this movement. This
Now, you shared this. It was the abolitionist movement, right? So, okay, so is it safe to say that when we to include things like the police,
Well,
the
no. Let me
abolitionist
stop.
movement.
Let me stop you before you even start. Um,
Well,
this says prison abolition, so
I
let's
was,
just
I,
keep
I
it.
was, I was getting there.
Yeah, no. I know. That's why I said let me stop you before you even start,
I,
because
I, I, I,
I wanna make it. I don't want to
I did hear
throw
you,
anyone's. Yeah. I just
and I
don't
didn't
want
want to
to.
throw anyone off. I just like to finish statements and then have them
Okay.
corrected,
Okay. Well, that's
so
well. That's
that
that.
everybody,
Well, it's my fault because I've been mixing phrases, and I want to correct that. That's why I said
Mhm.
let me just uh, let me just correct that right away. So this is prison abolition.
Okay, so
Um,
this is specifically prison abolition. So this lady that I was referring to, whose tweet I read, what was she involved with?
Again, I'm only making assumptions based on she used language that I picked up on, um,
Okay,
that I've heard a lot. So I just made an assumption. So I'll just leave that
okay.
there.
So she was
Um,
talking about Amy Cooper, and her position was she's already paid for her, and I'm saying this in quotations,
yes,
crime.
yes, exactly. Already paid for her crime, and that basically. I'm also kind of paraphrasing, but it to me it sounds like she was actually talking about prison abolition as well, because she was saying that the carceral system isn't necessarily the way to go.
I think
Right?
short of that, and in this particular case with Amy Cooper, I agree with her. Like, I don't even think she should be charged. But, I have a mix of one, I think, the court of public opinion has ruled, and not only did they rule against her, but they've also, you know, issued judgment against her, and she's paying for it. This is my opinion. But then also on top of that, I'm also very weary of a lot of the negative aspects of cancel culture and how they play out. Like,
Yeah.
for me, and it's something that I've always, it's no secret. You know what I mean? I just kind of think that some things, and it's just too much. Like, to me, it's just ridiculous. Like, the teenage kids on Instagram, said nigger 5 or 6 times or painted themselves in blackface. Like, so what? To me, that doesn't mean people shouldn't care about it. People shouldn't feel one way about it or another. To me personally, it's just like, so, like, so.
Yeah. So real talk. A big thing here is making a statement, and kind of using this as a catalyst to stop this kind of shit, which has become very pervasive. So one could argue that if I were her lawyer, I could argue, uh, don't don't punish her more than she should be, because she happens to fall in the middle of this, time and place. You know what I mean? Like, where she's bearing like the brunt of everything. Now, I'm not saying that's how I feel. I'm just saying that would be a good argument for a lawyer.
I think it's fair to say.
Um, I certainly feel like this is different than teenagers saying the N word. This is someone really trying to weaponize their whiteness and say, "Oh, I'm gonna get you. You like messed with the wrong white lady," and then like pouring on like the tears and like acting really upset, and then like lying
I feel
and
like
adding to the story
I feel like I
on the
need a
phone with
violin.
cops. Yeah, all that stuff that she did on the
Yeah, but
phone.
I mean, I feel like I need a violin. Like, not for you, but just because you echo the sentiments of a lot of people, and it's like, oh, boo-hoo.
My
I
point
mean,
is, my point is, she knew what she was doing, and she tried to like get this guy fucked up.
yeah, and it didn't happen,
Is my point.
and
Yeah,
it didn't happen.
it shouldn't have to. Like, it's already happened like so many times. So now we have to wait until it happens to be upset. What kind of shit is that?
Well, I didn't say people shouldn't be upset. I don't even know where that came from at all.
Well,
I'm
you
saying,
said
oh,
it
boo hoo.
didn't. Yeah, you said it didn't happen, and I'm saying we should stop it before it does happen, right? Because I don't want to do another march
Well,
or do another.
I guess that's where I differ, because like I was, starting to say, I think that, I've been using the term emoji speak. Like, people are way too sensitive. This is my opinion. I stand on it. I just think people are way too sensitive. Especially non-black liberals. Like, you're overly sensitive. And, Cynthia mentioned something, about, we got to stop the Karens. And my response was, clearly Karen is subjective, because we can be as much Karen or Kevin or whatever people want to say as the people we accuse of being Karens. This
Yeah,
is my perspective.
in general, I agree with you that sometimes people are overly sensitive and it goes too far. But in this case, I feel like stop it before it starts. Like call it out for what it is. And this was like an egregious use of her whiteness to like weaponize it and to try to like screw with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of it was the whole like choking the dog, which
Mm-hmm.
some people don't like when you mention choking the dog because they think it takes away from what was potentially happening to this black man or whatever. But I think it's all supposed to show you like the lack of humanity that's being shown, right? So like the fact that she was choking the dog at the same time that she was potentially going to like do something hurtful to this black man just shows you not only who she was and what she was capable of, but like who we are as a nation and what we're capable of and what we allow to happen. So it's just like, yeah, it all happened, and people got upset, and they decided, let's make a anti-Amy law or whatever they called it, where it's like there's more consequences for calling the police for some bullshit, right? Because we're like often the victims of this, and the police show up and they don't know how to act, and they come like guns a-blazing and like assuming all types of wrong shit when they come on the scene.
Is
And
that what happened?
yes, it is. It is what happened. That's exactly what happened.
The police came up and did him
Yes.
dirty?
Yeah, they did.
What did they do to him?
They shot him.
So she called the police on him,
Mm-hmm.
and they came and shot him.
Yes.
Send me a link to that.
I don't have that link. I mean, it's I'm gonna have to dig through the
I'm
the
just gonna Google it.
2000.
Hold on.
I'm gonna have to dig through the 2000 other links.
No, I'm just
But I
gonna
may have
Google
I
it.
may have gotten
Amy
the
Cooper.
I may have gotten the name
This is the dog
mixed
park
up.
lady, right?
I don't know. Is it?
Yeah, so we're talking about the lady in the dog park, Central Park bird watching incident. He didn't. I don't recall him getting shot, but let me read it.
No, he didn't. He didn't get shot.
Yeah, that's what I just asked you. You said they shot him.
Yeah, I was making a point.
Yeah, but I was asking what actually happened.
Yeah, but you already knew what happened. So I was making a point. You knew what happened. You knew that he didn't get shot.
What was the point you were making?
My point is the same thing has happened again and again and again. So people got like
but I'm making
and they like,
which is why I asked you a question. So I understand that we're having a conversation, but I don't think you should choose to make a point over the point I'm trying to make. You should kind of make it as an aside so that I can also be able to make my point so that we can have conversation. That's kind of like robbing me of an opportunity to make my point and even state my position.
My fault. I thought you had already made the point, right?
No,
Like,
that's why we're kicking it. So I'm ultimately making a point about this specific case. I
mhm.
understand. I understand that there are other points that can be made and they should be made, and there's discussions that should be had, and you're making relevant points. But the way I look at things, right? Because I don't disagree with you about how many times that this has happened. I definitely don't disagree. But like I said earlier, I evaluate things case per case. And that doesn't mean that there isn't room to look at a specific case and come to conclusions about other cases, and we should be cognizant of that. We should be aware of the ramifications of what she did. But in order for me to make, or at least make a point worthy of you arguing, my question is, what actually happened? Like, play it out. Did the cops come and shoot him? Or did the cops come and recognize that? Like, I don't even know if the cops came. Now that's the serious question. Like, I don't even know if they showed up. I don't know what happened after the fact,
Yeah,
which is
yeah, that part never really got play, and I feel like I read something about that, but that part I'm not actually clear on either, because it never really they never really shined a light on it.
now
I
here's the
believe,
thing. Oh, go
yeah,
on. Go on.
no, I believe they showed up, but I can't really tell you like what the conversation was or what have you. Um,
So
I do think that that was part of why she's in trouble, though, was
so I
because
think it
she called them, a false, whatever they call it, a false alarm or whatever.
so this is probably wishful thinking, but I definitely will say that had the cops shown up and evaluated the situation, she should have been put in cuffs then and there. Like, out, and I think that's wishful thinking because I don't see that happening. But I think that should have been the result. When the cops show up, thinking that they're going to make an arrest, and they evaluate the situation, they find out what's really going on, then I think, okay, false report, we had to show up, blah blah blah. Guess who's getting put in these cuffs? But I don't even know if there's laws that support that. So I will say that in her case, I'm willing to change my stance and say that in her case, maybe she should be an example so that a law is made. But and maybe I'm understating this particular case by comparing it to, like you said, some teenagers on Instagram, and maybe it's because I'm frustrated because I feel like there are tactics used against me to provoke me to anger. I see it on social media all the time. Someone's
Mhm.
always sharing, a stupid video of some people saying nigger, or some stupid people, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And these things are supposed to provoke me to anger. And it's like, well, what is your real, if you're a white liberal, you be
Hmm.
angry. You
Right.
do something about it. You understand what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
other than that, what is like your real motivation? Should I be angry at what some idiot who works at a construction company says, when there are so many real things that I should be angry about, that I should really be focusing my energy on?
No, I definitely agree with the point that you said earlier about focusing your energy on like bigger fish. You know,
Right, right.
um, I mean that's important, and some of this stuff is like when people DM you this stuff, that's even worse
So
because
I
now
may
it's
I may
like,
be guilty of conflating this situation with all of those other situations. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, I mean that's kind of what happens. Um, it's why it's difficult to make heads or tails of it because now now we can manipulate people who feel like they're being manipulated, right? We can say, oh look what the media's feeding you, all these images all of the time. You know that's not happening left and right, or you know that's not happening all the time, or how come the media never shows you the good ones or the good guys? Up, they're trying to start a race war. They're
Right,
trying
right,
to do this and
right.
that. And so now you can get, Jack and Jill all hyped up and they go on the
Jack and
YouTube.
Jill, huh?
And yep,
That's what we doing with that. That's where
they
we
get
going.
they get all their information from YouTube, and they don't want to listen. When something is real, and you try to show them, and they're like, Trump didn't say that. They misconstrued his words, and it's like, no, I was watching it on live TV when he said it. This isn't like the okey doke. Nobody's trying to like screw with you. So it's a thing. I mean, I've said it before with people who have been doxxed randomly for saying something racist, and then all of a sudden they don't have a job, and I'm like, wait a minute, did they say that on the job? They work
Right,
at
right.
some random like Mickey D's or something. Like, I don't understand why
That's something that always perplexes me.
they had to go viral and like lose their job. Like, I
That
don't get
that
it.
that perplexes me, and not in all cases, but in many cases. Like, wait a minute,
Right.
you
Of
work at
course.
Target and you
Right.
said something at a party, and next thing you
Exactly.
know, you don't work at Target anymore. Like, wait a minute.
Exactly. Now, of course, there are cases where it's like, hold on, like, I
Mhm.
don't want these cops,
Right.
using the N word, like doing all types of crazy stuff, showing like effigies and people hanging, pictures of people hanging or something, and he's at a party, and then he's going to go back to work, as a cop who's going to pull me over. Like, that stuff I get, but like we said, this random person who works at Target who like, you know, dressed up in blackface on the weekend. Like, yeah, sure, it was a shitty decision, but I mean, he doesn't.
Should you lose your job?
Yeah,
In those instances, are we really giving people a chance to reform? Again, and I might be in a minority here. I just don't care about what you think or what you believe. I care about the ways in which what you think or believe actually impact me. Meaning, if you are, you know, not that I do, but I could hate a group of people for any specific reason. As long as in my dealings with those people, I don't let my beliefs or feelings towards them impact how I deal with them. You understand what I'm saying? But maybe this isn't ideal. Maybe I'm being idealistic, but that's just my thought process. Like, I don't care if you hate me because I'm black. You hate me because I'm black. Just when we're in society, and you treat me the same way that you would treat anyone else, we're good.
yeah,
You understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
we're good. I'm fine. Okay, you hate me because I'm black. I don't have to patronize you, but if I choose to patronize you, I just expect the same treatment as anyone else that patronizes, an establishment or something that you happen to be,
Right. If you're a
proprietor of or
judge,
what have you.
I'm going to be highly uncomfortable.
I am, for
Highly,
sure,
highly uncomfortable.
for sure. But then that might be the underlying theme of ignorance being bliss, as opposed to what we all know it to mean as cliche, right? Because how many people do we interact with on a regular basis that probably feel some type of way about a thing or another, and they just keep it to themselves, and thus it doesn't affect us? Or maybe we don't even know how it could affect us because we just don't know.
Right.
There are
Well,
conversations I don't have. For instance, I don't have the abortion conversation. I just don't have it.
right, right.
I
No,
don't
no,
give people my opinion on it one way or the other.
no,
Not
no,
that I should have an opinion on it.
no. My only point was, once you know this about the person,
Hmm.
they should not be like a judge in a courtroom, like, judging black people. Like, once you know how they feel, it's just not a good idea. Historically, it hasn't worked out for us that people who have espoused these views publicly aren't going to. It's not going to work out for us well in a court of law.
Right. No, I agree. For sure. I don't think I want my attorney to not like black people.
Well, even your attorney, I mean, at the end of the day, attorneys want to win. Even your attorney would be better than a judge.
No, I'm not making a comparison at
Yeah,
all. I'm just,
yeah,
throwing that out there.
sure.
I'm sure I had teachers in school that felt some type of way.
No, you definitely did.
Yeah, I'm positive. I had teachers that felt some type of way. I can recall one in particular who probably wasn't outright. I mean, she was very cool. I'm just, when I look back on it, she wasn't outright racist. She was actually very cool,
Hmm.
very cool. She never treated anyone different than anyone else, but she had her opinions on things, and we've actually discussed them in class.
Okay.
I remember my earth science teacher, freshman year in high school, I remember we just had a conversation on the class, and she was very cool about stuff like that. So Miss Bauer, I
Okay.
remember she had explained to us that, she probably wouldn't want her daughter to date or marry a black person.
Okay.
And,
What does this have to do with earth science, though?
well, no, this was at the end of the year, and we would do
Um,
like review and just like our reviews were very loosely formal classes. We had
okay.
gotten to a point where like the students were actually doing the review, and she was supervising it. And so I remember how this earth science exam played out. All we really had to do was know the 4 major exams that we took every quarter.
Okay.
And so we just reviewed those. So we had gotten to a point where like we just kind of knew, like she knew, at least our particular class just kind of knew, we knew.
Okay.
I'm sure everybody in that class passed. So it just kind of became like and it was the 6th or 7th period, like one of the last 2 classes of the day. I can't remember which one, if it was the
Okay.
last or the second to last. So it just kind of got to the point where we just go into class and chill.
Okay.
She just would let us chill, and we'd all be talking. You know what I mean? We'd be having conversations amongst the students, and this conversation came up, and then we would put forth questions to her. It wasn't like she volunteered this information to us. You know what I mean? It would be, all of us kind of just sitting in, I want to say 6th period. I'll just say 6th period, sitting in 6th period, kicking it. You know what I mean? Just talking. And then, we put forth questions to her, and she would engage.
Okay.
And one of those that question was put forth to her.
What did she explain why or?
Yeah, she did. And I can't remember why. And I feel like I wasn't offended. I don't necessarily agree, but I feel like I wasn't offended by her explanation because she just wasn't that type of person. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I think it was more or less, not that I'm making excuses for her, because when I look back on it, as I said, in reflection, I think she was probably prejudiced, but not the type of prejudice that causes her to discriminate. You know what I mean? To 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 look favorably upon one or another. I think it was a personal prejudice that had more to do with what she wanted for her family, which ultimately is still a prejudice. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Still
Yeah. Yeah.
equates to it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it was that destructive type of prejudice that impacts people. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Outside of her immediate family, I'm sure I'm sure it impacts her child if they feel like I want to date who I want to date, and mom
Right.
may be upset about it, or feel some type of way about it, for sure. But
Right.
as far as outside of her family, I didn't get that vibe. I still don't. Like, Miss Bauer was always cool.
Okay.
She never treated anyone, anyone better or worse than anyone else, ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, ever. I can remember specific instances where I feel like I was treated preferentially because of my acumen as it regarded earth science, especially when we went orienteering.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but I just kind of remember that teacher in that conversation. And for what it's worth, even though I feel like her opinion was based in prejudice, I appreciate that we were able to have that discussion. So there's that. Like, I definitely appreciate that we could actually have this discussion with her, especially for me being a young black man and this being a, you know, an adult white woman. Like, tell me how you really feel. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if we can sit down and have a conversation and discuss our differences, cool. And do it, you know, respectfully, cool. I'll never have a problem in that situation where I can discuss, listen, again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this part of the conversation. I don't care what you think about me. I don't. I don't care how you feel about me. I care if it's going to impact me or not. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that really matters to me. And again, you've given specific examples where, you know, I actually do care what you think about me. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, in the case of a judge or what have you. But for me, dialogue is important. So I'll have a conversation with anyone. You could wear a white sheet. Let's talk.
Right. So
You know,
speaking of
those,
which, what do you think about that brother that they said spoke to over, I don't know, 2,000, I don't know what the number
KKK
is.
members.
Yeah. And like
I just don't believe
changed.
it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. And you know, it was shared on a page, and I kind of looked at that, and like the way that they shared it was like they were trying to make some point, and I was like, now I really don't believe it, because now it feels like it was done to try to, like, you know,
It's bait.
yeah, like bait, and it was done to try to say, like, see, like, this is all you have to do to change things. Like, you don't really have to fight against the system, and you don't really have to, like,
Yeah,
blah blah
so
blah.
ultimately what you're doing there, not you, what the
Mhm.
people who are proliferating that message is they're talking to me like I'm stupid.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. You're talking to me like I'm stupid. You're showing me an article or some stupid post of some black dude who really went to, you know, KKK meetings and had conversations with Klansmen, and he can, yeah, I could believe it if you know, the story would be, and this is if it were a movie, he convinced one. That's enough for a movie.
Right. Well,
You understand what I'm saying?
I think this was actually a documentary, because I remember when this came out. I remember what the dude looked like, and I think it was like on Vice or something. I think this was actually a documentary, and I may have inflated the number, but I think he made claim to have done this. Now, the dude could just be out of his mind and just like a wacko, but you know,
So I used to tell a friend of mine all the time, he gets so frustrated. He'd like, this was a documentary because he loved documentaries.
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, documentaries are reality TV. It's what do you mean it's a documentary? I'm like, well, it's always from the perspective of the documentarian, right?
Mhm.
Like, film is art. There's a cutting room floor, there's editing. I'm only going to see what you want me to see. I'm only going to get the narrative that you want to give me.
Right.
You know, I take things with a grain of salt
Well,
because I
the only
get it.
yeah, I mean, I'd have to check it out, because if it's Vice TV, they kind of at least do have some kind of uh
Credibility.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but do they assume license over people's artistic, you know,
That's a good question. I mean,
vision?
no, that's a good question. That's a good question, because I feel like if it was Vice TV, they would have had someone in the field checking this guy out,
Mm,
actually
mm.
watching him go to a meeting. But I'd have to look back into this so I can even report on it correctly, so I know
Yeah, I can't even.
what I'm
I'm
talking
kind of
about.
speaking out of school as well because, you know, the only information I have is the article I saw proliferated on social media.
Yeah,
I didn't do any research into it. I'm just saying, you know, at face value, highly doubtful to me. Like,
yeah.
I just really,
But it was
that's
really
it.
trash the way that this person put it up because they were like, see, now this is good. Now you see what those BLM people try to do. Like, I'm like, all right, this is trash. You're like using this. You're like uplifting this thing, which is like not credible at all and crazy if you actually did this to put down like a credible, movement.
Well, this is why I don't support BLM as an organization.
Okay.
I support the movement, the Black Lives Matter movement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know that I support a group called Black Lives Matter, the organization. But I felt that way.
Well, there is no organization.
Well, there is an organization. There absolutely is an organization called Black Lives Matter, for sure. For sure.
I mean,
and I felt what? Say again?
Well, this is like Antifa, right? This is just like a bunch of people who are like fighting towards a common cause, who are like scattered all around the country or around the world, and they all use the same hashtag, but it's not an actual group per se.
No, it is actually a group. It's actually an organization.
So where are they based out of?
So I'm going to give you that information. I've known this for some years now. Actually, I'm using my online resources as we speak. But I've known this for some years now. It's not a secret. That's why I separate, and I tell people that I separate my support of the movement from my support of Black Lives Matter as an organization, because they did some things some years ago that were questionable to me. Nothing negative, everything that they actually should be doing, but it caused me to question. I just questioned ultimately their motives, and not that their motives were bad. Some of their motives, I have to ask questions. Hold on. Yeah, they have a global network managing director. They have a mission statement. They have a website. Hold on.
I mean, I think you're gonna find many chapters.
Yeah, but it's an organization for sure. For sure. Certainly not just speaking out of school on this one. There are several chapters. Black Lives Matter was founded in 2013 in response to the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murder. Black Lives Matter Foundation, Inc. is a global organization in the US, UK, and Canada whose mission is to eradicate, it's incorporated. So anyway, whose mission is to, Black Lives Matter Foundation, Inc. is a global organization in the US, UK, and Canada whose mission is to eradicate white supremacy and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on Black communities by the state and vigilantes. By combating and countering acts of violence, creating space for Black imagination and innovation, and centering Black joy, we are winning immediate improvements in our lives. We are expansive. We are a collective of liberators who believe in an inclusive and spacious movement. We also believe that in order to win and bring as many people with us along the way, we must move beyond the narrow nationalism that is all too prevalent in Black communities. We must ensure we are building a movement that brings us all to the front. Hold on, I just want to get to.
Yeah, I'm on the same page that you're on.
Okay. Yeah, they're incorporated. It is absolutely an organization. But that was known during the whole Trayvon Martin era because they really criticized, I forget his name, who was at that time the leader. I don't think he's. Yeah, he was like he would go with the name like Lion or something like that. But I don't think he's the face of the organization any longer because they had. Yeah, that's what started to make me ask questions. And again, I don't want anyone who's listening to this or even you to get it confused. I support the Black Lives Matter movement. I don't know enough about the organization, and I've had enough. I've asked myself some critical questions about the organization that gives me pause before I'm willing to say I absolutely support the organization. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I think today a lot of people are confusing the organization with the movement. Hence the reason why people can make the movement look bad, because of very real questions regarding the motives of the organization. I'm talking about our intelligent adversaries, those people who actually do the research and are intelligent, who oppose us. They go research, they do due diligence, and they do deep research on Black Lives Matter as an organization. Then they find some shady things and they conflate it with the movement and make it the same thing. There are a lot of people, white people in particular, who are screaming Black Lives Matter and don't understand that there is a difference. At least maybe they shouldn't, but at least I separate the two. While they may have sparked the movement, I don't think they are the movement. Black Lives Matter, whether there's a Black Lives Matter organization or not. You understand what I'm saying? Like, Black Lives Matter. Whether there's an actual organization or not, Black lives still matter. So I think that there are a lot of people who support the movement and don't realize that in supporting the movement, like white people who raise money for Black Lives Matter, the organization. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying do your research. If they're going to get $6 billion, where is this money going? My friend asked another friend of mine who contributed to raising like $4,000 for Black Lives Matter in California. My friend from Canada, a black man, the person who raised the money was a white woman. My friend from Canada, we all went to school together. He asked her, he said, is this money going to help to the legal defense of the people arrested during protesting? She didn't know. She didn't know. She doesn't know where the money's going. She just participated in a bunch of like bake sales and stuff that these white people put on to raise money for Black Lives Matter. Well, where is it going? And I'm not speaking negatively of the Black Lives Matter organization, but this is my friend who's black wanted to know. And when he asked the question, I paid attention because I wanted to know. Where is it going? Is it really going somewhere? Styles P, or was it Jadakiss, asked the same question. And he couldn't get answers. He publicly asked, where this, y'all making millions. Where's the money going? Tell us how it's actually helping black people. That they're not something shady. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they're doing anything shady with them. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is these are fair questions. And if you're not going to be transparent, tell us why. Tell us it's because you are aware that we have enemies and you don't want to give the information. Tell us as much. But they're not going to tell you where the money is going. They're just not. At least as far what I, and I'm not talking about from like white people feeding me a story. Like black people have been asking this question. Where's the loot going? How is it actually impacting and helping black people? And again, I'm not pointing the finger at them and blame at all. At no part do I want anyone to get it misconstrued in saying that I am blaming Black Lives Matter as an organization for being shady or doing dirt. I'm not. What I'm saying is that I don't know enough information to say that I'm aligned with that. And I am certainly aligned with the movement. You see what I'm saying? 100% I'm aligned with the movement. I just don't know enough about the organization to be like, yeah, I stand with the organization. That's all. That's simply what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think now that I remember, I think I do remember there being a statement about the decentralized movement and the actual organization that you're talking about. Because the movement is bigger than the organization.
Yes, absolutely.
And the movement doesn't have any actual leaders, so it can't be like taken down or infiltrated or any of that stuff, because it's just like it's a movement, whereas the organization is this this actual thing.
Yep. Yeah, because somebody was like, "You don't support Black Lives Matter." I was having a conversation. I'm like, "No, it's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you need to be cognizant that there is an organization and there is a movement. And while the organization sparks the movement, if it's really just and important, has to be bigger than the organization."
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It
My executive director came out of the movement for Black Lives, and I remember when I first heard about him, I was like, "Oh, he used to." I think I said something like, "Oh, he used to work for Black Lives Matter," and I think someone corrected me and said, "Well, he came out of the movement for Black Lives." So I think that was a correction, as in he didn't work for the organization
organization.
itself, that he worked like as a part of the movement. I believe
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that. Say that correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that my dad taught me in his absence, but I didn't get a lot of words of wisdom from him. But he was a part of, the Nation of Islam. He's no longer, but he certainly is still practicing Muslim. And one of the
Okay?
things that I was able to pick up from him was, listen, question everything,
Yeah.
question it all, make sure that it is right and true. Which is the reason why he left the Nation of Islam, and is still a practicing Muslim. He's just not aligned to a specific organization.
Yeah.
But he left because he started questioning things, and when put under the microscope, the nation just couldn't hold up.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
So he realized that, and he was, for most of my life, that was what he was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But his actions and some of his words, I asked him why, and he was like, I'll tell you this because I'm not going to bash anybody. This was just last year when my brother died. He was like, I'm not going to, bash anyone. He was like, I'll just reiterate, son, question everything. Question, ask questions, make sure that the people you choose to call your allies are right and true. It's okay to question them, even if they look like you.
How old was your brother?
In his early 50s.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. Were you close?
No,
Okay.
no, no. I had only met him a few times in my life.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know him. You know what I mean? I didn't know his kids. I didn't know him growing up at all. As far as, I knew he existed, but I was raised with my sister.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me and my sister had the same mother and father. My older brother, two older brothers, had, different mothers than me. So I wasn't, raised, they were older than me, and I wasn't raised with them.
Okay.
So I didn't, they lived in a different state, the whole nine. Never knew them. Didn't even know they existed until like a certain, I don't know, maybe I was a teenager.
Mhm.
By then it's like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My sister went out of her way to get to know him and develop, a relationship with him. But, I didn't.
Yeah.
I had a life, and not that I, didn't, care to know him. I just, like, man, I lived in another country and I was in the military, and, I got married at a young age and had a family. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
was, and I'm also kind of a jerk. So it's kind of like,
Yeah. I have a similar situation with my biological mother. I was like
say
kind of
again,
getting. I have a similar situation with my biological mother.
in what sense, if you don't mind me
Um,
asking?
well, she's just the person that I eventually met when I got older, like in my lower 20s, and I crashed with her for a little bit in New York City.
Are you there,
Oh, hello. Can you hear
Mike?
me? Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
I lost you, Flav. Now I
All
got
right.
you back.
Oh, okay. Must make it
So you
subside.
crashed with her in New York, in the city?
Yeah, I guess. Long story short, it's kind of like I don't. I'm not like close with her. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But like, she's still my mother. So I check on her from time to time. But it's not like we're super close.
Yeah, same situation with my father. Same thing. Like we're not close. We don't have problems or anything, but we're not like there's no father and son relationship. We're cool. You know what I'm saying? But I'd been without for I was married before I actually I clearly had met him at some point in time in my life when I was, very, very young, like before 2. But I was already married and, had a daughter before I actually met him again.
Yeah.
Actually, not only was I married and had a daughter, like my grandmother died and I was burying her, his mother. And that's when, I met him and we kicked it. And it was like, yo,
What age was that when he
when?
came back into your when you met him?
Oh, let's see. I think my grandmother died in like 2002.
Okay.
So to be like in my mid 20s,
Okay.
24, 25, something like that. I don't know. Something like that. So, at that point, it was like, I remember telling him like, we're not going to be father and son. We can be cool. Maybe we'll be friends. I remember telling him that because, that's just how I am. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we can be cool. Maybe we'll even be friends. I know he called me like last month. I did see him last year when my brother died. We were cool. We're cool. Like, we're friends on Facebook. We're cool. He'll share a lot of my posts. You know what I mean? Like, we're cool. He definitely called me last month. We kicked it for a bit. We don't talk often. Maybe once. That was the first time we talked since last year. We don't talk often. But I don't have no problems or anything. We talked about this on another show. At least you were privy to this conversation when I was talking on the Let's Get Serious show.
Yeah.
With Emily, I believe, or Cynthia. We were having this conversation. Yeah, we're cool. But, I like him. But overall, I had been indifferent for, the majority of my life.
Yeah.
Flav.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just been an overall indifference for the majority of my life. Like, oh well. I didn't know what it was like to not have a father. I guess I did because I didn't have one, but it never occurred to me. I was never envious of people who did. You understand what I'm saying? And I actually grew up in the hood, but where I grew up in the hood, the street that I grew up on, a majority of my friends, not all, but it would be a minority that weren't in a 2-family home. So I kind of got lucky. I was one of the people that wasn't in a 2-family home. But when I say I kind of got lucky in the sense that even with that, it never occurred to me I never was like, oh, what does it feel like to have a father? Like, it just never occurred to me. My mom was good. You understand what I'm saying? So it was like, I never felt like there was something missing. My sister would say the same. And a lot of the kids around me actually were in 2-parent homes, which is, kind of rare. Growing up where I grew up, Kim Bailey, in the hood, you know what I mean? But the street that I lived on, a majority of the people on my street had, mom and dad in the house, or at least, in some cases they live with both of their grandparents. You see what I'm saying? They either live with both of their grandparents or they live with their mom and their dad. And that's like almost everyone I can remember, with a few exceptions. because the people who didn't have two parent homes, myself included, we were really the exceptions in that neighborhood, in that little pocket neighborhood. It was like 3 streets all in a row, 1, 2, 3, and we all kind of, there were short streets, so we all hung out and grew up and played together, and we all knew each other. We still know each other. We're all still friends on Facebook, but the majority, I would say 90, upper 90 percentile of them all were in 2-parent homes, which is kind of rare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, like, I didn't grow up with that vision of, that we know so well today of single parent homes in the Black community. Although I lived in a single parent home. But even still, like, I lived upstairs from 2 of my uncles. You know what I mean? Like, my mom's oldest brother owned the house. It was a 2-family house. Him and his youngest brother lived downstairs. I lived upstairs with my mother and my sister. So it was like I had 2 father figures below me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right downstairs. So, they definitely disciplined me. I definitely got whooped by them.
Yeah.
Which, so yeah, but yeah, that was growing up for me on the east side in the hood. Was I grew up around a lot of people that had, 2-parent households. Yeah, we got in a lot of stuff that a lot of kids get into growing up in the hood, especially when we became teenagers, but not nearly as bad as it could have been had I not grown up around people who had 2 parents in their house.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We weren't inclined to just jump right into some of the things that were, available to us or accessible to us, when in that environment. Because we're talking Ken Bailey. So, how Ken Bailey is in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Like, it's Ken Bailey. Like, I lived right in the heart of Ken Bailey. I had Kensington on one end of my street. And because I lived at house number 1, I had Bailey on the other end of my street. My house, the street I lived on formed a T, right? So you had a street called Collingswood where Precinct 16 used to be on the corner of. So Collingswood started at Bailey and went to Olympic, right? So Collingwood ran one way and it began at Bailey, ended at Olympic, and there were just 3 streets from Bailey to Olympic. There was Bailey, Freeman, Copeswood, Midvale, Olympic. So I grew up on Copeswood. All my friends lived on either Freeman, Copeswood, or Midvale. So those 3 streets were bookended by Bailey and Olympic. So my street, Copeswood, the last house was on the corner of Kensington. And the first house, which was mine, was on the corner of Collingwood. But because my side door was on Collingwood, the other street that was closest to me was Bailey. So if I went out my front door and went down the street, I was on Kensington. If I went out my side door and went down the street, I was on Bailey. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because of how it was set up. So it was like I lived literally right in between Kensington and Bailey. Like right there. And both of them were, less than 3-minute walks. It took me less than 3 minutes to get from my house to Bailey. It took me less than 3 minutes to get from our house to Kensington. So I literally was right in the heart of Ken Bailey. Like right there. And, I couldn't have been closer to Ken Bailey unless I actually lived in that house that was on the corner of Kensington and Bailey. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was right there. So, and there was stuff, it's Ken Bailey. Like everywhere you went, you could find something to get into that was, wasn't above board.
Right.
Everywhere. Our 3 little streets were still, pretty kosher. Yeah, we got into stuff as we became teenagers and, you know what I mean? But I like to say that all the people from my 3 blocks became smart hustlers. Like they're all successful in doing something now. You know, they're all still on Facebook. They all work. They're all doing something. And again, 2-parent households.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, some of us got into hustling, but it was by choice. And I like to refer to them as smart hustlers, right? Because they were like, not only were they smart, but they also were smart enough to know that this isn't going to be my life.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And again, I think it was just as simple as the education that comes from having 2 parents in your household. Just that simple. You know, it's easy to respond. Oh, I'm going to sound so bad when I say this. To respond to and or be molded by love when there's 2 authority figures, you know, demonstrating it in your house. And then that equates to an education, because there's a greater concern times 2, right? For the well-being and the prosperity, I'll say, or productivity of the child, because it's times 2. If I'm making any sense.
Yeah, definitely makes sense.
You know, one of the things that I probably, and again, I didn't miss, but missed out on, you know, my mom had to work. Sometimes me and my sister had to make dinner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because my mom had to work. She was a single parent. You know, my uncle wasn't going to help us with our homework. My mother was beyond diligent. Like, she lived a life. She never had to say to us, you guys can't fail. It was unheard of in our heads to ever fail in school. And my mother never had to say it. It was how she lived.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, there was this expectation that was just kind of always there without it ever being said. I just recall every year in school, like, no matter what, I don't care how bad I choose to do and how much I put off work, I can't fail. Like, I can't. Like, what do you mean fail? I cannot fail. Can't fail this grade. Can't do it. What do you mean? Not going to graduate on time? Stop it. You understand what I'm saying? And it was just, my sister will tell you the same thing. It was never spoken. It was just this expectation that was kind of just always there. And it was real. Like, it was like, I felt like I would have been breaking the law. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I well in school all the time. There were things that I excelled in. I definitely could have done better because I wasn't stupid. But I know that by the time the end of the year came, I need to bear it down and hit these books and make sure I pass all these tests, all these exams. No matter what. So, you know, I want to segue.
Okay.
Oh, hold on a second. Oh, my bad. I just got. Okay. Yeah, I want to segue. So I'm going to segue to some entertainment stuff real quick.
Okay.
I know we usually do that with EMZ, but EMZ ain't here.
Yeah.
So have you watched Warrior Nun?
I have not. I've seen the preview.
You haven't watched it yet? I'm surprised. That just seems like something you would have checked out by now.
Yeah, no, it was hard to tell if I would like it by the preview, because you know how I am sometimes. Like, I feel like I've seen something before or whatever. Yeah, no, it's one of those things where I'll probably, if I start watching it and I like it, I'll probably end up watching the whole thing. I just never started.
So I enjoyed it. I actually thought it was pretty great. It's certainly original, but I mean the comic book is kind of an original story. What I would suggest is to give it a chance past episode 3. It's a very slow burn,
Okay.
and the main character's narrative voice is not. It takes a while to adjust to. She does a lot of. You hear her narrative voice quite a bit. You get to hear what she's thinking. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it takes a while to adjust to. And then the first 2 to 3 episodes, they're slow burn. But once you get past episode 3, you understand why I say I think it's pretty great. It's a great show. You just have to get past episode 3. It's a lot of building of story, and you understand what I'm saying. But when you get to episode 3, you get it. When you get past episode 3, you really get to see what the show is about and where they're going, and it gets really, really good, and there's real good character development from that point on, and it gets good, really good. I liked it. I'm anxious for a season 2. And then speaking of that, are you going to watch The Old Guard Friday?
The Old Guard. You showed a picture of that. That was Charlize Theron.
Yeah, from the Image comic, The Old Guard.
Yeah, no, I mean that. According to what I saw in the picture, it looked cool. I don't know anything about it, but it looks cool.
Oh, I had shared the trailer a while back on the website as well. Yeah, it's based on an Image comic. They are immortal soldiers.
Okay.
Hence the term The Old Guard.
Yeah.
It's based on a not an old Image comic. It came out in 2015.
Okay.
And the comic is pretty cool. I mean, it wasn't a like a maxi series. It was more like
what does it come out on?
Say again?
What does it come out on Friday?
It's on Netflix.
Oh, okay. It's not
Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Charlize Theron's production.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's her film.
Cool.
So, and again, the comic was pretty cool. Definitely a finite story. Well, there's 2 of them now because they just put out another one earlier, maybe at the end of last year. But it's like I believe a 4 to 6 issue. The first series was 4 to 6 issues, and I believe the second series it's still coming out. So I don't know how many issues it's going to be. I would imagine 6. I know it's only on like number 3 or number 4 for the second series.
Okay.
But, I guess they're just, whenever they want to, they can just go to that well because, again, we're talking about immortal soldiers. That's the premise, that these soldiers have fought in wars throughout the centuries. You know what I mean? And obviously they evolve with the changing of the times. You know what I mean? But, hence the reason why you see the one guy with the sword. And I know she wields that unique design that is on the cover of that poster I showed you that's like going through the center of them is actually an axe. It's just a weird, almost 360-degree circular type axe that she wields.
Okay.
And, I mean, they obviously, again, they evolve with the times, so they certainly use the weapons of modern war. However, they have their little favorite types of weapons as well that, date back to as long as, they've been alive, so to speak. The Old Guard, definitely give it a watch. I think with the production values and the casting, I think it has potential to be like a pretty big movie. Like, I think if we weren't in the streaming era, it would get a major theater release.
Oh, this is just a movie that's coming out on Friday, not a series.
No, it's not a series. It's just going to be a movie.
Okay.
Yep. I definitely think. And it's with old boy, right? I never know how to pronounce his name. Chiwetel
Oh yeah,
Ejiofor.
Ejiofor.
Yeah, he's in it. Charlize Theron is in it. So I mean, they seem to have. I mean, with the exception of Charlize Theron, they definitely seem to have. She spent a little bit of money to get another name actor in there.
Yeah.
The production values look really good. I watched the trailer. It looks really good. I mean, Charlize Theron probably didn't. It's her film, meaning like she's behind the production of it. So I'm sure casting herself saves money.
Right.
She's gonna get a cut of the overall
Right.
is where she'll get. So I'm sure she doesn't have to pay herself her film salary. I don't even think she's as sought after. I don't even think she commands the paydays that she did 10 years ago anyway.
Okay.
I mean, maybe she does. I don't know. That's your wheelhouse where you happen to be able to pull up general information on things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that would be interesting. I would wonder, um, what keeps someone at that higher level of
I would imagine working on hot films.
yeah.
I mean, the last hot film she did was Fast and the Furious.
Okay.
No, you know what? I guess she probably would still have to be up there, right? Because like she stole the show in Mad Max Fury Road, and then she popped up again in the Fast and the Furious film as the villain
Right.
in one of the two most recent films. I believe the one where Paul Walker dies. I believe she pops up as the villain. So I
Yeah.
mean, I imagine those are big films. Mad Max Fury Road was a big film, and she stole the show. She wasn't second billing. You know what I mean? She was certainly equally billed. At least if you seen Fury Road, right?
I've seen Fury Road. Yep. At the
Well,
same
yeah.
time, women are still not being paid, the same thing. That
No,
men
no,
are.
no. But what I'm saying is that was a big movie, and
Yeah.
her part was equal to the guy who played Max's part.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting at. Not that he got paid. She got paid equally. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is her part was so I would imagine she's still one of the top paid female actors in Hollywood.
Sure.
It's not like her last two movies were small movies.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't think of what she did before those, but those two in particular stand out to me as being a part of the Fast and Furious franchise is a big deal, and she was the villain. You know what I mean? And again, that coming off of Mad Max, which was a hot film. Actually, I kind of want to watch it now. It's just not a Netflix film. But yeah, so I think we can table it and pick up tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
All right. Um, what what do you got going on with the Let's Get Serious?
I mean, I don't have any plans on that. I don't have any plans for Let's Get Serious. I mean, that's usually just a de facto Friday thing.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I was just curious if there was any plans for that or.
No, I mean, the only thing was I was trying to push them to do Friday or something. I wanted to do something like Friday, but maybe not even a whole. I don't think I wanted to do as big of a chunk as we did. I kind of like, you know,
Oh, you
didn't
mean
really have the patience.
with the reading?
Yeah, I don't really have the patience for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
longer readings.
Y'all were going in.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have patience because when the reading that long, there's going to be long bits where you're not going to have any parts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool though. It was fun.
Yeah, I liked it. That one girl, Danny, was really good. You all were
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, Danny's good.
You all were good, actually. And that's real.
That's cool. That's cool.
Danny just got my award for that week.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll holler at you tomorrow. We'll pick up.
Okay. I'll talk
All
to you
right.
then. All right. Peace.